Zen monks, Rinzai monks, have two small books, about this size, so they can put that in their sleeve because they don't have pockets, but they do have sleeves. You can put them in there. Two volumes called Zudoko in Japanese, which means the poison-painted drum. It goes back to the ancient Pali suttas, where apparently Gautama Buddha spoke of the Dharma, the living truth, especially speaking of it, was expressed metaphorically as like a poison-painted drum. So it's a drum, but it's has poison on it, so that by beating the drum, anyone who hears it dies. Of course, this means spiritually. Their delusions die. Huh? So it's an apt title for this kind of handbook. Rinzai monks are not supposed to read, especially during the session, the retreat, intensive retreats. They can't open a book except the book that the Zen master is giving the lectures or the teisho on. But in secret, they have this book, the Zudoko, the poison-painted drum, and it has everything they need. It has the koans, it has the capping phrases. It also has a Zazen manual. There are many Zazen manuals. They have the same title, Zazen-gi, literally Zazen manual, often 1-2 pages long. Fred briefly mentioned Dogen yesterday. Dogen has a number of Zazen manuals, some of them called Zazen-gi, some of them a little different, Zazen-shin. But this Zazen manual that the monks carry around, that is in this poison-painted drum, is a much earlier one, probably around the 9th century. And if you look at Dogen's Zazen manual, maybe about 75% of it is basically taken word for word from this manual. So the monks are expected to know this, perhaps even memorize it. It's part of the handbook of any Rinzai monk. And it explains how to put the right leg up on the left thigh, the left leg up on the right thigh, place your hands, and so on and so forth. But it also goes a bit into the, you might say, the theory behind Zazen. But it is a very practical work. I gave Dharma talks on it 10, 12 years ago maybe, and so that's up on the website. But I want to just read the part that addresses Zazen in the present context. Again, from the Zazen manual, it says, Zazen really is the Dharma gate, the entrance. Zazen really is the Dharma gate of ease and joy. If you become ill from it, you are not doing it with proper care. Done properly, the whole body becomes light and at ease naturally. Spirit fresh, mind clear. The taste of Dharma sustains, and you are calm, pure, and joyful. So this is quite a good summary of what Zazen is or should be. Again, that first sentence, very famous. Zazen really is the Dharma gate of ease and joy. Well, during a retreat, sometimes it may not be quite exactly that, but it's true, though. It's true. When, again, it continues, if you become ill from it, if it's not working, to put it bluntly, see what you're doing wrong and correct it. Huh? This isn't torture. It isn't torture. But you have to find out by doing it with your own body and breath and mind. Huh? But you will see, it's true. It really is the Dharma gate, the entrance of ease and joy, if you're doing it properly. But that may take some time. we've already gone over in some detail the physical posture, or postures, the possible postures we can take. As I mentioned, if you can maintain that clear and settled focus, you can stand on your head during Zazen if you want. But sitting properly, you realize for sustained Zazen, yeah, this is the way to go. Huh? If it's very painful, I think it mentions in our guidelines, you can stand on your cushion for a period if you would like. Huh? But if you stand for a couple of hours, you will start to remember that, oh yes, sitting probably is the way to go. Because I can assure you, anyone who's had to work standing up, like as a crossing guard or something like that, or working at a cashier, if you're standing up for hours, it hurts too. It hurts. If you lie in bed, like if you're hospitalized for too long, that can become very painful. They actually have what's called bed sores, which can be very serious illness, and an infection can arise from lying down too long. We have a body. There's gravity. There's the climate. There are many other things. We don't need to get rid of the body. We need to learn how to let the body support us in the practice. And you do that by testing it, confirming it for yourself. We're not here simply to make it as comfortable as possible. That's not quite the point. Not as comfortable as possible, because then, well, you probably just lie down and you'll fall asleep. Okay, if you want to do that, you might as well go home. But we're doing it in a way that allows that focus, that alertness to remain and be sustained for long periods of time without a gap. And so naturally the back is erect, not bent over or not lying down. Standing up, you can do it, but it's much easier if you're seated. But with the back naturally erect, as I mentioned, this really helps to sustain, to maintain a settled, focused, and alertness. So again, with your own body, find out the best way to do that. More important than what you do with the legs is for the back to be naturally erect. The head not going forward, not going backwards, and of course, especially if you're sitting half lotus, not tilting to one side or the other. So in the beginning of the Zazen, you may even want to gently rock from side to side so that you can feel where you're in the middle. You're not leaning. You can also go forward and backwards to see that you're not bending one way or the other. And then with the breath, without forcing it. One of the many reasons we have our hands informally like this, or more formally, the half moon mudra like this. You can feel it at the end of the out breath. The stomach extends. Right here, this is the navel, the belly button. So if you're sitting full lotus, it works, you see? Here it is. If you're not sitting full lotus, you may want to put a small cushion, excuse me. If you're sitting half lotus or something, you may want to get a cushion so that it's about the right height. But with full lotus, you really don't need anything else. There it is. The end of the out breath, just letting it extend. Not, but extending. And almost everything we're doing with our body is to support us and to help us in the practice. The breath as well. Learning how to, in a sense, breathe. You're always already breathing. But to allow it to slowly deepen, lengthen, and slow down. Then, in a sense, we can say the stage is set for opening up to the mind. What remains now? What is going on in your mind? We're not looking for stuff. We're not trying to dig up ancient wounds or anything like that, but to see in your present mind, your present mental state, so to speak, what's there? Is there a feeling perhaps of joy as mentioned in the Zazen manual? Yes, this often happens. Not a joy, what's called a sensuous joy, a joy connected with some sense pleasure. For example, eating a delicious meal or remembering eating a delicious meal. It's not that kind of a joy. It's a joy that comes precisely because you are not indulging in some sensuous pleasure or trying to get away from some unpleasant feeling. It's precisely by being settled without the mind grabbing on to anything or even having to let go of anything. So a kind of a joy just arises from the depths of your being. A joy that is not attached to anything. It's not attached to a pleasurable experience or a memory or a hope. It just comes from being settled. You might say from not, at least for that moment, not grasping on to anything, not craving something. Or what was the rather technical term you used? You used two words, either grasping on to, or aversion. Aversion. Craving or aversion. I hope everybody understood. These are fairly technical terms. Craving, I think the second noble truth, one way of translating that is craving, grasping. And then the opposite of that is aversion. That's not such a common word in English, but it's used to translate the Buddhist text. To be averse to something, to have a strong dislike for something, aversion. So it's, as you, I believe, said, it's two sides of the same coin. Grasping after, craving what you get pleasure from, or being averse to, trying to get away from what you dislike, what is displeasurable, this constant dukkha. And again, the cause, the source of that dukkha, that dis-ease is craving, or more technically actually craving aversion. Craving aversion, it's the same thing, you see. The mind not being able to come to rest in this, but endlessly wanting to keep what it likes, at least at that moment. Often when you have it, you kind of find it not quite what you wanted, and then you chase after something else. And wanting to get away from what you dislike, for example, pain. But as you become settled in the Zazen, it's not that you don't feel anything anymore. No. In a sense, you feel it even more, but it doesn't drive you. It doesn't become an urge that controls you. This is how an addiction arises, you see? No. I would say, in a sense, you feel even more deeply, but you're not enslaved by it. You understand? like becoming a slave to it. You experience it fully. Very, very pleasurable. Wonderful, wonderful. The bird song this morning, it was just lovely. Just how could you not be, how could joy not arise listening to that? But then are you going to spend the next 2 hours, oh, why don't they still sing? Oh, I wish they were still singing, only in the morning. Shit, I hate that. This is aversion. You have just turned a pleasurable experience into something painful. So obviously, we're not trying to always have pleasurable experiences, because the pleasurable experience itself, if we crave it, becomes itself the cause of pain. I want to keep it. Birds sing. So it's not a matter of getting rid of the aversion and increasing the pleasure. You see? This is what pop religion will do, you see? We get rid of that and we increase this. This is nonsense. It's nonsense. It's a cause of its own. It's a symptom of the disease. That's all. It's a symptom of the disease. The point is to fully experience what there is at the moment. Pain in the knee, there it is. Don't try to deny it. If you experience it fully, as the question just came from Karen, it shows you what needs to be done. If you can discern, if you can clearly see, this pain is, it's a pain, it comes and goes, it's okay, I just continue sitting. Or, something's really wrong here. I need to adjust my posture. To be able to discern, to clearly see, to be able to judge. Yes, that's right. It's not, I sit here no matter what. You may injure yourself. Huh? So we're not here just to try to get rid of the bad and increase the good. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We're here to be free, to be released from that entire duality. The whole kit and caboodle, as we say, the whole thing. Then when pleasure comes, no, we enjoy it fully. When pain comes, we listen to it, we respect it. We see if something needs to be done, but we're not a slave to it. Pain itself becomes its own release, or to put it in more Zenistic terms, sickness is its own medicine. Taken rightly, huh? Sickness is its own medicine. Then nothing can really get in the way. You see? What can disturb the practice then? Nothing. Nothing. In the beginning, it seems like everything can disturb the practice. It's too noisy. Now it's too quiet. But as we get settled, those disturbances, entanglements, you start to see them for what they are, no more, no less. They don't have to disappear. If you really let them be what they are, they show you the way to go. They are the way. That's why this Zazen manual. Zazen really is the Dharma gate of ease and joy. When you're doing it right, it becomes clear. Even if you have pain in the knee, that's right. It is the Dharma gate of ease and joy. I urge you to confirm this in your own practice. Don't torture yourself. Feel free to stand up and stretch for a moment if you'd like. Does anyone have a question or concern from out of the practice? Please feel free. Fred, yes.
You said something about the disease being its own medicine. Could you please explain that a little bit more, how you mean that?
Yeah. When we become ill, when we become sick, suffer from pain and so on. Huh? The ego self does not like that. It wants to get out of it. I don't have to tell you about the enormous drug industry in the world today. Huh? I'm sure it's here in the Netherlands, but it's huge in the USA. Huh? What does someone do when they feel some pain or some lethargy or some kind of an illness? So many people go to the doctor and get some medicine, and the doctor will often prescribe that, huh? And it becomes taking a pill for this, medicine for that, and so on and so forth. The least bit of discomfort sometimes, and we all know how many of these stronger medicines are addictive, and a lot of people in America, a lot of people die every year from basically overdosing on these painkillers. They become addictive, and then you need to take more and more for the same effect. When you sit in Zazen and you really get settled, you're able to experience the sensation in its purity. What is pain and pleasure? It's the same sensation going one way or the other. A painful sensation may 5 minutes later become a pleasurable sensation. It's a sensation, physical sensation. But then the mind takes it up and wants to, for example, hold on to that pleasurable sensation or get away from the painful sensation. But when you really are settled in Zazen and you can simply experience that, as you yourself explained yesterday, without manipulating it, without trying to do anything with it, but allowing it to come just as it is. Being settled enough so that you can do that, not, but settled in the sitting. You come to realize the nature of that sensation, the nature of pleasure, pain. I did it through sitting full lotus, because I wanted to be able to sit full lotus. I thought, if I can, before I get too old, I want to learn how to sit properly, because I knew enough, mostly Korean, Chinese, Japanese monks who were able to sit through in full lotus. And I thought, if I can, I want to do that. But it was very painful in the beginning. For some years, I was doing it, but it was just like, waiting for that. Come on, Fred, ring the bell, And then, boof, boof, put the legs down. And then what do? I go to the bathroom and come back and do it again. It was crazy. But eventually, at one point, I was able, for whatever reasons, the conditions were right. What I always do, bending down, and then I came up, and somehow everything fell into place. I said, oh, this is full lotus. It doesn't hurt at all. Actually feels good. And your body remembers that. It remembers when it hurts, and it doesn't want to go there again. But when it's pleasurable, your body remembers that too. Oh, I'll go there again. And so within a short time, what had been an extremely painful experience actually became the Dharma gate of ease and joy. It became wonderful. But more important than that is there was an insight into the nature of pleasure and pain. Because what happens is the pain will come. Many of you have experienced it, huh? The pain comes, perhaps your knee or your lower back. It doesn't matter where, huh? And it seems really, really bad, and you're, what am I going to do? And often 5 minutes later, it's gone, right? You're sitting there, oh, that was like the worst thing I've ever, and now it's gone. That's funny. But then maybe it comes again, this time even stronger, even worse. I wouldn't urge you to sit through that unless you're really settled in the practice. But if you are, you're sitting properly and you're settled physically, with the breath and mentally. When the time and the conditions are right, just sit through it. And that's what I did. And, it eventually became really, really bad. But I was able to just not respond to it. And eventually it just kind of broke. And at that point, it's hard to explain, but it was the nature of pleasure and pain became clear. That sensation. It's no more, no less. It's a sensation. And the pain is often your body telling you something's wrong. You shouldn't ignore it. You should listen to it, and if necessary, respond. But you're not a slave to it from then. It's not, well, I don't have any pain. No, it still hurts sometimes. Sometimes one of my legs will fall asleep. Maybe you can help me with that, with hatha yoga or something. I don't know why, but maybe just a little bit off and one leg will fall asleep. But the pain is not a problem anymore. The pain comes and it goes. Just like pleasure. It comes and it goes. I don't chase after one and I don't run away from the other. It's not necessary. But that's only possible when you have experienced that, the nature of pleasure and pain. You follow? Mm-hmm. So it's a very valuable experience. It's not the point of Zazen, but it's a damn good perk. My teeth aren't so good, and I have to go to the dentist sometimes. And he always says in Japanese, raise your left hand if it hurts, so then they know, like that. And he's always looking. He says, I'll give you some Novocaine. I don't want Novocaine. If I need it, I'll raise my hand, And you think you've got something, go to the dentist. That'll show you whether you've really got something. It's a good test. I don't know if that answers your question, but taken to its extreme, to say something like Yunmen or Umon, a famous Chinese Zen master, he spoke of, roughly translated, illness is its own medicine. And the point there is, if you become ill, but you don't turn it into anything else, it's a fever, maybe you take some medicine too if necessary, antibiotics, whatever. But you let that illness do what it needs to do, work its way through, and then it's gone. But that illness can itself become its own medicine by not turning it into anything else. I learned a lesson, a few years ago. I had vertigo, pretty serious, not just dizziness, but, if I'm lying on my bed and I would turn my head, that's all. Just look at the time. Oh, the room, it's like you're drunk. The room would be like that. It was really, but it was that was medicine. That was a precious medicine, because I always knew Zazen is not a state of mind. Dude did a video with the old chain for the ferry boat, very stylish. And I think I was talking about that sitting over there, about it's not a state of mind. Mm-hmm. But it became really clear with vertigo, because you sit, Zazen, sit, hara, bullshit, utter bullshit. If you have vertigo, all you got to do is turn your head and it's like you're drunk out of your mind. It's not a state of mind or a physical state either. There's got to be something more fundamental than that. So it was a great experience, because any kind of physical, even a posture, sitting wasn't a problem. But again, just for example, turning like that, all of a sudden, the room was spinning, So it was a very valuable, that was really good medicine. Does that help? I hope you don't ever get it, but if you do.
It sounds joyful.
Well,
being drunk all the time.
Jeff, in what way was it medicine?
In other words, that experience itself taught me something very, very valuable. More important than being dizzy was that it really is not a state of mind. It's not maintaining a certain kind of like hara energy or something like that, because that's completely gone when you have vertigo.
Oh, I had vertigo as
Oh,
well.
okay, yeah. It's really, it's bizarre, and they don't really know, but apparently there's some thing in your inner ear that controls your sense of balance. We think, oh, I'm balanced, I'm sitting. Listen, if you're inner ear is messed up, for example, an infection, you can be sitting like this and it's like that. So, thinking it's some kind of physical, I said Zazen, Zen is Zazen. Yeah, try it with vertigo. Huh? Yeah. So that was a very good medicine, very good medicine. Yeah. But it's apparently something in the inner ear, and it gets knocked out of place, and so you're balanced, but your inner ear doesn't read it that way, and so you're just sitting there and you just go like this, and it's like it's a profound medicine. Yeah. We still have a few moments if anyone else can speak from their experience.
Yeah, I might have a question.
Yes.
In connection to what you said, because on one hand you quote the Zazen manual where it says that it's ease and joy, and if it gets you ill, you're not doing it right. Then on the other hand, you have someone like Torei, for example, who actually says that it's pretty much a function of effort that you put into it, and actually he did get ill and almost died when he was there.
Yes. Yes.
But you wouldn't say that he was not doing it right. So what's going on? Like,
Well,
are
yeah.
there two ways, or?
I would say he was doing something wrong. He was, as Hakuin also became very, very sick, probably we might say a nervous breakdown. But Torei was almost dead. He thought he was going to die. That's why he wrote the Shumon Mujin Toro, no? Because he thought he was dying, so he was leaving this last testament. Then he actually got better. The illness did become its own medicine, and he lived for some years.
Yes, they both attained realization pretty much unparalleled by all the other folk that were doing it in a more relaxed manner at the time. So, there was something to it too. So I'm trying to figure out what's...
Yeah. You have to see, this was in the shadow of Bankei. Bankei had been about a generation before that. Bankei, unborn Zen, and very profound. There's an English translation, The Unborn. There's two books, two translations. Basically what's called Fusho Zen, literally unborn Zen. Not a common term in Zen. It goes back to the sutras, unborn, undying. Huh? And that was the way he came to it. So he speaks of it that way. And he says over and over, this is Bankei, huh? You don't have to go through what I went through. He also almost killed himself practicing so hard. Huh? And when he was about to die, something lies in his throat and he spit it out. And he saw it dripping down the wall of the place where he was getting ready to die. And he realized everything is fully resolved in the unborn. And of course he got better. He asked for some rice gruel. They thought, he's ready to die. What does he want rice gruel for? He also, the illness became its own medicine. He actually had a very deep realization. But in the shadow of this, a very natural form of, you can realize the unborn, as he put it, sitting comfortably on the tatami mat, right here and now. You don't have to go through what I went through. You don't have to torture yourself. He says this over and over. Right?
No, but the point is that no one did, actually, of the people that he spoke these words to. Like, he actually realized it through going through that effort. Then he thought, you don't have to go through this stuff, guys. But those guys actually did not realize what he did, so...
Yeah, it's a problem, but there were some people who realized it, but his closest disciple died before Bankei died, and he really regretted that. But there were some people. I've been to the monastery, Ryumonji. I did a day of Rohatsu, actually with a Dutchman, Harm. He wanted to go there, so we did that. But again, you're talking about this real willful effort of Rinzai Zen, which comes, especially it's clear in Hakuin and Torei, one of Hakuin's main disciples. And part of it, I think, is from the shadow of Bankei, because within a generation, people who didn't really realize what Bankei realized, just said, oh, it's okay, it's unborn, it's already here somehow. I'm not sure how, but he said it was. So. And it became corrupted. But Bankei was a very profoundly awakened person if you read his records. But yeah, how do you practice that? Well, the other extreme, the other mistake is perhaps taking Hakuin or Tore too literally, where it's got to be this tremendous effort, tremendous willpower. Huh? This can also go very badly awry. I've been to Ryutakuji, which is the monastery where actually Hakuin set up Tore when he was recovered, at the foot of Mount Fuji. And if you go up just above where the monk's hall is, there's a big hill with a lot of, it's a big grave site. And you look at the dates, a lot of those guys died in their 20s. You know, they were doing what Hakuin told them to do, and some of them were dying. Yeah. So both of them can be abused. The ego self can corrupt anything it comes into contact with, including Zazen, including willful effort, and of course, including, we don't have to try too hard because we're already awakened, right? You know, anything can be corrupted by the ego self. So the real point of practice is to dive in right there. Great effort, certainly helpful. Without some effort, you wouldn't be here, right? You all made some effort to come here, some from other countries. Huh? You need effort. Without that, you can't even begin. But that won't get you there. Thinking by pushing more, pushing harder is itself, it can become a serious disease. You see this, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean, so a middle way, right? Not doing that. This is all bullshit. It's utter nonsense. It's the core way that's free from both. That's what it really means. So I would say you have to give all of yourself. But that's much more basic than mere willpower. Willpower is useless, utterly worthless. It's impotent. One moment of inattention, where is it? It's gone. For those of you sitting late at night, right? You're sitting there and really trying, and you end up slipping off to sleep. Huh? Right? That's one moment of inattention. Where's your willpower? It's done. Useless. It's gone. But if you don't know that, what happens? You'll see late at night, the monks in the monastery falling asleep. And then they, when they do it harder, and of course that makes them even sleepier. So in about 30 seconds, like that. And sometimes they'll go over and they'll get hit with a stick because they're doing this. But they're causing it themselves. They just don't realize it yet. They're trying to barrel-ass power their way into enlightenment. And so they're just becoming more and more wasted, more and more tired. Well, in Rinzai Zen, there's room for that. They just let them go, and eventually maybe they'll realize it. But there's much better ways to do it than that. But you see it in the monastery. We don't need to go there. We don't need to go there. To give all of yourself does not mean willpower. It's something much more basic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We've gone a bit over time, but is there anything else that needs to be said? You have what you need. You don't need something else. Of course, you might want to improve your Zazen, your breath, and all that stuff. Yeah, all of that stuff is good and well, by all means. But you have what you need. Perhaps to say, just to realize it, to fully realize what it is. But it's not something far away, difficult to attain. Something in the future. It's not in the future. It's not in the past. It's not even present now. But here is where you come to it. You have to come to it here. You can only come to it here. That's the value of Zazen. Don't turn it into something to attain or a way to attain it. It's just then become a plaything of the ego self, you see? There is nothing to attain. That's what you need to attain. Thank you for your questions and your comments and for listening so intently. Let us get back to the practice. Thank you all.